Today I'm joined by Giuseppe Grammatico. He's the author of Franchise Freedom, as well as the host of the Franchise Freedom podcast. He's a franchise consultant specifically focused on helping corporate executives, whether it be a side business, a side hustle, or transitioning full-time into your own entrepreneurial endeavor. Giuseppe, thanks for joining today.
Patrick, I appreciate looking forward to it. I had fun when you were on our show earlier this week, so looking forward to it.
Yeah, no, that was great. And we both have kind of a similar background where we started our careers on Wall Street, both worked at JP Morgan. And I'm sure that your story can resonate with a lot of our listeners that have full-time jobs, whether it be in tech, finance, working at a big multinational or even mid-sized company. Could you just tell a little bit about your trajectory into the franchising space?
Yeah, so I grew up in the family business. My family owned a restaurant. Loved that business, but didn't love the hours, nights, weekends, and holidays. So first person to go to college in my family, and said let's go that route. And I always had an interest in investments, which led me to an internship with Payne Weber, now UBS, and got in on Wall Street investments. Loved it in the very beginning. Got my Series 7 license, and then realized I'm working for a really big company, and I just felt like I was a number, a lot of long hours. I was commission based, salary mostly commission, and noticed the more I brought in, the less I made every year, which I thought didn't work that way. But apparently, with changes and commission schedules, that was the reality, and felt like I had no control. A lot of hours, 5-hour door to door commute. It's a round trip a day into New York City. And said, there's got to be a better way. I have way too many managers, way too many people dictating my future. So I said, I'm thinking of owning a business. I love the restaurant. Aside from the hours, what else is out there? Did some research, talked to a ton of business owners, and then came across a franchise consultant in my area, here in New Jersey and the Pennsylvania area. And we started speaking and fell in love with franchising, kind of jumping in, the system built for you. And that was back in 2006, and bought my first few franchises in 2007 and haven't looked back. Became a coach and now help others figure out if franchise ownership is a great fit for them.
And to date, I understand you've worked with over 1,000 of these professionals that have left the corporate life or, continue on their corporate trajectory, but also have a side business.
Yeah, we've worked with, it's been years of helping individuals and families. We have a lot of, parents coming back, cousins and relatives asking how they can do the same. And to be very clear, not everyone buys a franchise, and that's okay, right? What we do is really figure out if a franchise or even a business is even a good fit. So yeah, we help a lot of people. I always jokingly say I help a lot of marriages because I'm the one that says, you know what, you got to get everyone, whether you're getting married, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever the situation is, everyone should be involved in that decision. So lots of education, everyone, different kind of, stages of, just talked to someone that was going into college, 17 years old, and wanted some advice and things to think about. So maybe someone we talk with years down the road. So yeah, love what we get to do. Love to help where we can.
When does it make sense for someone to consider basically going into franchising full time versus getting their feet wet with a semi-absentee opportunity or even a fully passive opportunity?
It's going to depend on your specific situation. So I myself jumped in full time because I wanted to grow as quickly as possible, learn the business, and just quickly expand. But I also had the luxury of my wife was working. So I had an income coming in. That income that first year covered most of the bills, the mortgage, the utilities, and things like that, and created a buffer in the event the business did not take off. So, financially, you need to make sure you have 6 months living expense. You need savings. Don't forget your personal expense. If it's just you, if it's just one person, you need to make sure there's money coming in to offset, or got to change your situation. That means I had, moving back home, moving in with somebody else and downgrading. I didn't go out to dinner the first year, and I jokingly say, or I should say, for the big chunk of the first year, since I took a family loan to fund my first business. So really, it's, do you have the capital? Some people, the idea of leaving their job and starting a business, it gives them anxiety and a panic attack. And we talk through what the worry and fears are. And sometimes it just makes sense to say, you know what, keep your job, find a business that allows what we call semi-absentee ownership, that has support systems in place to assist. And if that helps you sleep at night, if that, you do that for the first year or so, and you get your health benefits, that's fine. There really is no right or wrong answer. It's about educating yourself in your specific situation, and just making sure the franchise company allows semi-absentee ownership, and then digging into what exactly they're doing to assist.
Can we dive into that? Could you
Yeah.
give an example, maybe a type of industry, investment threshold for someone to get in a semi-absentee opportunity, and what the day-to-day might look like?
Yeah, so semi-absentee, it's been a buzzword. What exactly is that? And I've heard so many definitions and ways of looking at it, from franchisee to franchisor to franchise consultant. And essentially, what it is that the franchisor is allowing you to not be full time in the business. To be clear, some franchise companies make it mandatory for, just say, the first 6 months to a year to be full time. That is their franchise avatar. That's who they're looking for. And then from there, maybe hiring a general manager. In this case, the franchisor will allow you to hire a GM if needed. And you're essentially keeping your job and putting in part-time hours. You're not in the business full time. With that being said, a lot of franchise companies may claim that they do allow it, but before just saying great, let's move forward. But before moving forward, always look into, well, what makes it semi-absentee, aside from being able not to put in full-time hours and keep your job. And a part of that is the systems and services in place. So as an example, home services, which has just exploded since COVID, many companies offer semi-absentee ownership. So what does that mean? They will offer you a turnkey marketing. So these are B2C opportunities. They're taking care of the marketing, where the franchisee's role is essentially to oversee the KPIs, approve the marketing plan, oversight, right? It's not just a set it and forget it. You want to make sure that not just the number, but the quality of leads coming in are high quality, and have the spend or qualified for that specific service you offer. Many of them stop there and just said, we're going to handle the marketing. You don't need these employees. And as a result of that, you don't need an office. What we've seen is a lot of other franchise companies said, you know what, we're generating leads, but the franchisee is not seeing the best results. Where is the area that's, what's missing? And it's the calls. No one's there to pick up the phone because the franchisee may be working, maybe in the field. So a lot of franchise companies have implemented or put together call centers in-house. Another area that you don't need to find the employees, you don't need to manage them. You're basically overseeing them. This will vary brand to brand, but the call center will answer questions. Some will schedule, some will take payment, and some will even upsell if you do offer multiple services, especially in home service. So these are ways of taking things off your plate, less people to manage, no office needed. And others will even take it a step further to be very clear on the general manager needed for the franchise. Some will tell you exactly where to find them. Some will assist with finding that general manager, even to the point where I've heard franchisors do the final interview to make sure that that person is the right fit, since they will be running the day-to-day. So it's a combination of the franchisor and their offering, and then reverse engineering your situation to find the right GM. Because the worst thing you could do is have a great system and be a bottleneck in your business, because you have to approve everything. So this way you empower the manager to make certain decisions, and you don't have to okay everything. Maybe you have some check-ins once every evening for an hour or whatever time that may be, just to approve certain things.
Have you seen any unique strategies or even just compensation plans to retain that GM and have them grow with the franchisee throughout
Yes.
the
Yeah.
business?
Yeah, that's a great question, because that's going to be crucial. Because yes, you have the franchisor assisting you, supporting you, but that GM is running the day to day. So obviously, you want to keep them happy. You want to incentivize them. So a term we're hearing more and more is offering the general managers phantom equity, and that's really essentially profit sharing. They're getting maybe monthly or quarterly distribution, the profits that they're getting. So they're not waiting, until the end of the year, they're getting incentivized, because every decision they make is going to be based off of, well, how profitable can I make it? Do we really need to hire another employee or up the marketing? Can we make do to obviously increase revenue, but keep the costs low? The best part of why it's called phantom equity is that you're not owning the underlying business itself. You're just getting a percentage of the profit. So, I've heard things where maybe you earn a couple percent every year for the first 4 or 5 years, incentivizing the GM to stay longer and get a bigger piece. So that's been a very popular strategy that we're hearing more and more often.
How have some of your clients, as well as some of the leading franchise brands, gone about securing that key hire?
Yeah, so some will be a lot more involved than others. So a lot of times they'll come back, and I think the better brands will have a exact post of where to find the person. So almost like, these are the duties you'll need, and then they'll say, okay, will this work with your schedule? Because if you're working 9 to 5 every day, but you work from home and have some flexibility, that may affect slightly, what your involvement. You may be having more involvement during the day. So being aligned with your specific schedule, which is different for everyone, and the GM, to make sure that the roles are in line. Some of the companies we work with will actually have a department. Well, they'll go out and find all your employees, not only your general manager, but all your W-2 employees, all the assist with all your contractors. If you're in the roofing business, you need contractors, they will assist, and they usually charge a flat rate for that, as opposed to a percentage. So some have created departments to actually really help in that area. Others will give you a posting. Some will work with you, as I mentioned earlier, and actually be involved in the interview process. It may be earlier in the process. In many cases, it's towards the end of the process. That's going to vary from brand to brand, but they do realize that that's going to be a key hire. And I think part of that too is when you're talking to other franchisees as well, it's kind of a combination of things. You want to go back to them and just say, what did you look for? Are you having success with your GM? What made them successful? What's your compensation structure? You're going to probably have to adjust that to where you're located, and use kind of a combination between, feedback from the franchisees and what the franchisor is able to assist with.
The GM's so key, and
Yeah.
obviously Giuseppe working with you to find the right franchise system for that particular client. But what are some other ways that you see for your clients to essentially make sure it's a positive side hustle and not, a thorn in their side, where they're like, oh geez, like I'm spending so much time on this, where I could, be focused more on work and maybe get a promotion. What are some secrets to that success?
Yeah. So, when you're doing your research, a big part of it is you're going to be speaking directly. It's the second stage of your due diligence is validation. And the franchise companies may kind of give you some general ideas. And many times it's an average of the entire system. But the biggest advice I can get to everyone is going back and validating, speaking with franchisees. So validation can be done several ways. It could be one-on-one conversations. It could be pre-recorded group calls, where you'll get to hear questions from other individuals just like yourself looking at a franchise, and you can listen to that maybe after work or on your when I had my long bus ride home from New York City. And they will also do live group calls where they'll schedule them, just say every Wednesday at 5 p.m. and whoever wants to join, and you get to get their feedback and ask them realistically, what hours are being put in there, and do you have any advice there? So obviously, if you're not empowering your general manager, that's going to be a key issue, involving a lot more involvement on your end, because now the business basically comes to a halt until you make certain approvals. The time flexibility is also another one. So, I call it flexibility or sensitivity. So as I mentioned, if you work from home, you can put more hours during the day. So you want to make sure with these businesses, as far as a match with time, that the business is something that can, maybe emails can be returned in the evenings. If it's a business that's extremely time sensitive and people need a response much sooner, then you're going to want to make sure it works with your schedule. So it's not a one size fits all, but it's really, what's my current situation? What are the hours I put in? But not just the hours. When can I invest time in the business? If it's just nights and weekends, that may rule out certain businesses that require a quicker response time. So I think you look at that, and as far as the offerings, and go, great, you have all the facts, what the franchisor offers, You have a general understanding of who you need to hire. Now let's talk to the franchisees to get their feedback. Not only, are you putting in, what kind of hours are you putting in? And if they say, well, I'm putting in full time, well, did they just open? Because that's going to be normal, right? Learning first time business, hiring staff, but it's after the first year and they're still putting in those hours. Is it something on the franchisor side? Is it something on the franchisee side? And these are concerns and these are questions to be brought up to the franchisor. And in those cases, maybe it's a reason not to move forward with a business. And I always encourage people to dive in deep, get their feedback, and always bring that back to the franchisor. Because
how many current franchisees should one speak to before moving forward and signing that franchise agreement?
There's no real exact number. I talk to people that that purchase franchise that never talked to a franchise, or they spoke with one, and I just said, well, you should definitely talk to more than that. These are people I didn't work with. These are people that come into me saying,
sure,
I'm looking at another franchise. So I would say, speaking specifically with people, so if you're running this semi-absentee, I would start talking to guys that are semi-absentee. It may be a group call, and you may have 5 of those current franchisees on there. I wouldn't say there's a number, but I would say at least 5 or more, bare minimum. And
yeah,
maybe you talk to
fair.
an owner operator, you talk to someone running it semi-absentee, you talk to a rookie, you talk to someone that's been doing it a lot longer, maybe their top performer, or maybe someone in between. So you get different perspectives. So you have kind of the entire picture.
What do you think now about like franchise resales? Because there are quite a few baby boomers that are leaving some of these more established franchise brands that they've been a part of for 20 plus years. When does it make sense to explore a franchise resale versus a ground up franchise?
What we're seeing is this: the existing franchisees are networking with their fellow franchisees. So if you're in the state of Florida, you're talking to all the other franchisees, which is a huge benefit because obviously you can share maybe employees or marketing strategy or even marketing costs if you're kind of splitting the cost to cover a larger area. So what we're seeing in that case is our franchisees are acquiring their neighbors or vice versa, right? They're growing that way. And in that strategy, you don't pay a broker fee. There's still going to be transfer fees, but you don't have to learn the system. You already know the system. You just have to obviously figure out exactly who your customers are, what the market potential is and things like that. As far as someone that's brand new looking into it, it's going to be, it depends on the resale. So you're still going to get support from the franchisor. The franchisor, you're still going to speak with them to make sure it's a good fit. So you would talk to the seller as well as the franchisor. But things to consider are, now you're doing 2 levels of due diligence, the franchisor and then the books of the franchisee. So things to consider are typically you're going to pay a premium for the cash flow that's coming in. So you want to see what your place is in the business. Is the market capped? Is there any growth available? Is it just tons of customers with bad experience? So you want to do Google search on reviews, maybe speak with a few customers and get some of their feedback, because you need to go in thinking, okay, is this going to be damage control? And if it is, there still may be plenty of opportunity, but you're going to need more time to ramp that business up so that you may come back and counter on the offering. But it could be an absolute great strategy for someone that wants money coming in day one. Just keep in mind the premium, and you want to make sure to do a little bit more research on your local market to make sure you're not capped out or you're buying a big headache at the end of the day.
Yeah, you brought up 2 great points. Like, number one, the best deals are generally going to be had internally from people within the franchise system, whether it's a corporate buyback or selling to someone in an adjacent territory or someone potentially in another state if the franchise system really allows for someone that's not in the same geographical area, which there are opportunities. And then 2 was the premium, where you were talking about home service industry, maybe you started for 50K, 100K, but if it's a half decent franchise brand and the owner's, working full time, making say 100K, you're going to have to pay 300K for that business. Is that premium worth it for you
right
to make cash flow of 100K? Or is it better that you start from zero, maybe right in your town, instead of buying a franchise resale that's 45 minutes away or hour away? And maybe that's kind of why you're transitioning from the corporate job in the first place, the commute.
Yeah, to your point, there's no right or wrong. It's really, if there's a resale, a lot of the resales never even hit our desk because they are being administered internally, because it's so much more cost effective. Something a business doing really well, a neighboring franchise is going to pick that up, and they'll put feelers out years ahead of time. Whenever you're ready to retire, whenever you're ready to sell, contact me. And a traditional broker will charge a flat percentage. So plus, or there may be an agreement directly with the franchisor. So that would be listed in the franchise disclosure document as to what the resale fees would be, what they would charge if they bring the buyer to the table. So there's definitely some advantages. Keep in mind too, if you've been pre-approved for a loan for a new franchise, you're going to have to go out and get another pre-approval, because now we're talking about typically much larger investment, and then with existing cash flow. So just keep that in mind. If you've been pre-approved for an SBA, you're going to go back and get pre-approved for this specific business, this specific resale.
Giuseppe, we talked today as well as in prior conversations about like when things go wrong, like what could that franchisee have done to correct the situation? I think a big part's the research, due diligence, verifying information with franchisees, as well as bringing your spouse to the decision making and really making sure that they're involved in this big endeavor that you're taking on. Can you think of any other like kind of post-mortem exercises where it's like, okay, this franchisee, if they had done this, like they could have avoided the situation they're currently in?
Due diligence process, I recorded a 3-part series on this, is crucial. It is, I mean, people want to rush through it for whatever reason, and I'm not sure why. I took my time because they get so excited about the product itself. And just for everyone listening in, if you like a certain product, if you like a cookie, a pizza, or brownies, you don't have to own that business. You can have another business and buy all the cookies you want, or brownies, or whatever the business is. So I see people, there's a line out the door, they must make a fortune. Newsflash, it doesn't work that way. It's about profitability. It's not about just the demand itself or the line out the door. You need to make sure that your costs are in line. You need to make sure you're making a profit. So, I think the due diligence process, I think people, they get bits and pieces. They don't compare apples to apples. I'm a finance guy. We've been both on the investment side. When people look at me like, well, it has to have 20% margins, or they have these requests, and I go, margins are great, but what are you making at the end? What is your involvement? What are you bringing home?
Fiscal benefits, like,
are you putting in 90 hours a week and you're getting your margins? Are you getting, at the end of the day, what is the profitability of the business and what is the growth potential? So really digging in, speaking with the franchisees, speaking with the franchisor. If you can, go to in-person discovery day, the last stage of the process. Some people do it virtually. They've been offering it since COVID, and that's fine. It's still a meeting. But I would encourage you to go out there, take the time, shake hands with the founders. You go to those events, really getting a clear understanding, not of this section of the FDD states this. It's really, which obviously you want to get every question answered. But I think more importantly to me is I've asked those questions prior to that meeting. The importance there to me, or the priority, would be, what's the future of this business? Are you looking, to grow from 50 to 100 franchisees? How are you going to support us? Are you looking, the big one for me, I love when franchisors add revenue streams. And when they add, we have a company that started in the coatings business. They restored vinyl siding. Now they're into cabinets and other areas, kitchen cabinets inside. Winters are cold depending on where you live. They got to be able to work 12 months a year. So the franchisors that are reinvesting in the business, really supporting their franchisees, listening to their franchisees. The same company listens to their franchisees. They doubled the length of their training to make sure to hit all these concerns and pain points other franchisees have experienced. Feedback is crucial. No franchisor is going to be perfect. So the due diligence is crucial. Taking your time, getting your questions answered, talking to the franchisees. The franchisees understand, they were in your shoes as well. So you're going to have financial questions. You're going to have time questions. The trick here is you want, this ideal business, and you want this business to check off all the boxes. So if it makes a lot of money and requires you to work 7 days a week, 90 hours a week, may not be a good fit if time flexibility is kind of what you're looking for. So if you skimp on the due diligence up front, you're going to pay the price later. So, do it as best we can. Obviously you move forward with the franchise, and obviously you want to stay close to that franchisor. Am I going to say every franchisor is perfect? Absolutely not. There's definitely going to be a learning curve. Some brands are a little bit more emerging, and they're figuring things out or refining their marketing, refining certain offerings that they have, whether it be training, pricing, or support. But doing that research up front so that you are talking with 3, 4, 5 brands at most up front, just to really understand their business model. And then once you get a good understanding of, I like B2B, I like service, I like this, I like that, then you can really focus in on that area as you're doing your research. So I can't emphasize the research process. And yes, the product or service is important, but guys, realize at the end of the day, this has got to be sustainable. We don't want fads. We want businesses that we can be in 1, 2, 5, 10 plus years, that we can sell at some point, maybe pass down to our kids, where you're going to enjoy the process and not burn out because you hate managing employees. And now you have 100 employees to manage. Don't settle. Just really, figure out something that's a good fit for you and your family.
Yeah, I mean, from our research, the businesses that are kind of like the most fun or that people really like to be doing, whether it's like a coffee business or a fitness franchise, and obviously there are exceptions in those spaces that make a ton of money, but
Mm-hmm.
generally the more attractive the industry, lesser the margins. Where if you look at something like junk removal or medical staffing, the owners are generally going to bring home more per invested dollar to like a fitness franchise or a coffee franchise.
Yeah, that's a great point. Like with coffee, people love coffee. So like, why do I own a coffee franchise? And then you realize, okay, yes, maybe coffee has some higher margins, but what are the costs, the rent and the number of employees and bad product? We own a restaurant. We had to throw away, if you didn't sell food within a certain amount of days, that product had to go in the trash. So there's some spoilage in there. So it's one of those deals where, you buy a coffee shop, you're not sitting there drinking coffee, watching your customers come in,
Chilling.
just chilling and relaxing. I wish that was the case. We had a story years ago where someone bought a franchise in the golfing. I think it was in golfing. I don't even remember the name of the company. And they realized that as a W-2 employee, they were playing more golf as a W-2
Yeah.
employee going out with clients versus owning that particular business, because that particular business revolved around retail, and they had a lot of staff leave for the summer going back to school, and then they were there 7 days a week, holidays, weekends, and things like that. So sometimes the underlying business is not the point where you're going to be doing that every day. And I always jokingly say I'm a huge soccer fan. Should I buy a soccer franchise? Maybe, but that's also a quick way of killing that passion if it becomes my job. Why not have a business that I enjoy doing? Maybe it's part-time networking at the Chamber of Commerce events, so that I'm done at 2 o'clock and I could take my family to the Red Bulls here in New Jersey and go to a Red Bulls game. And that's my passion. That's what I do kind of after work. So there's different ways of looking at it. The thing you enjoy doing doesn't necessarily have to be the underlying business, but can allow you freedom to do more of that. So that's how I look at it.
And I like your example of like kind of people assuming that business owners are making more money than they are, where there could be a line for coffee, but the ticket's like $4 compared to like a
Right.
flooring installation business and also sells the flooring and per ticket's 10K and they don't have a line out the door, but who cares? Like that owner of the business is making a lot more money.
It's a lot of coffees you'd have to sell, right? For
Yeah.
one big ticket restoration or installation type of
Yeah.
job. So very good point, because you have to consistently bring those customers in a very competitive market. So things like insulation are great examples, because it saves the customer money, and in many cases they're even getting a tax credit. So it's like, I'm saving money, I'm increasing the value of my home, and I'm getting potentially some type of tax credit if you qualify. So it's the non-sexy businesses that I've noticed have done really well. But again, it goes back to the role. If you don't like the role in that role, or you're not comfortable hiring a GM, and you need to make sure that business is a good fit for you. But if you're open to ideas, I think you'll find there's the numbers probably better than I do. Not probably, you definitely know the numbers better than I do. I always say there's over close to 4,000 maybe franchises in U.S.
We
and
see
Canada.
like there's been like 7,000 or so franchise brands that have been funded or furnished an FDD or basically taken in new franchisees. But in a given year, it's more like in the 3 to 4K range that are bringing in franchisees. A lot of times, like a franchise brand will try once or twice and they don't get anyone, or maybe they get two, and then they switched into a license model.
And that's another good point, right? It shows that every franchise isn't created the same. And to your point, once you get the FDD in place, an attorney can draft that document. You're a franchise, right? You meet all the, obviously you're going to have to take care of local law, depending if you're in a registration state or not. But you get that document up. To your point, maybe they do change to a license or decide maybe it's just regional. We're just going to handle the East Coast or the West Coast. And also, from my experience, there's literally a franchise in every industry. So I always say, if you're open to having the business built for you, a business in a box, you hear a business on training wheels where the systems are in place, I truly believe there is a franchise for everyone, but it's going to take time to be honest with yourself, with what you're looking for, and then going out and doing the research.
Giuseppe, so after someone does some introspection and really understanding what they want and what they want to get out of business ownership, what's the best way for them to get in contact with you if they need more advisory help in terms of further defining their goals and finding that right franchise?
Yeah, we can help at any stage. As I mentioned, I just talked to a 17-year-old going into college that actually, believe it or not, has a side business. So he was way ahead of myself and many other people I know with his family, and was looking to leverage that. So anytime anyone has a question, I offer. It's right on our new website we're launching here soon. 20-minute chat. There's never a cost for our services. And there's no catch. We are paid directly from the franchise companies. We are paid a referral fee only if you buy a franchise. So they pay our fees, and similar to a real estate agent or an executive recruiter, same exact model. If you have any questions, even if if the timing is right or wrong, or I have calls where I set up every 6 months where franchising sounds like a potentially a good fit. We mutually agree to that it could potentially be a good fit given what they're looking to accomplish. Maybe the money isn't there, so we check in every 6 months until it's there. And I give everyone my calendar, and you can feel free to book a call. It's the website is GG, my initials, thefranchiseguide.com. You can book a call. You can quick little plug, download the book Franchise Freedom, or if you're more of an audio person, listen to the show. And it's worth a listen. And in 20 minutes, our claim is, I guarantee, I wasn't able to say this on Wall Street, I guarantee you learn one thing. I'll make you laugh, and you'll learn one thing. At least learn one thing. And then if it's not a good fit, or if the timing is all right, no problem. Listen to the show and contact me when you're ready. I'm not going anywhere.
Giuseppe, have you done a podcast episode on like getting the most out of your discovery day? Because I think you hit so many excellent points 10 minutes ago in our conversation.
Yes, we did a 3-part series. So we talked about what to ask the franchisor, some sample questions along with yours, to be open and honest, to include family on the calls, speak with franchisees. We talked about, I won't repeat them all, but group calls and things like that. Make sure you're speaking directly with the franchisees, asking these questions, not being bashful, and then going to Discover Day with the intention of, I've made it this far. Odds are, let's be honest, no BS. The odds are, if you've made it to Discovery, the chances of getting approved are going to be higher. They're not 100%. I've been doing this for a while. You know how this works. There have been reasons people have not been approved, and then maybe that's another episode. But doing inappropriate things, or changing the complete structure where it was maybe you were looking at a franchise and you had 2 partners, and now those 2 partners didn't come to Discovery, or they're not part of the process. They may have to go back and make sure it's still a good fit. So you may not be approved right away. It may take another week for them to review your situation. It may be another meeting, but really doing things in a certain way. Guys that don't want to follow a process, it's going to be difficult. If you want to talk to franchisees day one, the intro call, it's not going to happen. You can go in and find out franchisees. You can go to your local franchise owner, no problem. But the way I look at it is, at least learn the business so that you know the questions to ask. We're not saying don't talk to them day one. If it's a Subway franchisee and there's one across the street, you can go speak with them, but really learn the business, and then saying, okay, now knowing what I know now, I know the questions that I should be asking. So if you take time each step and do it in that order, you'll increase the odds of success. And sometimes the odds of success are, I'm not moving forward with those brands. I want to kind of restart things and kind of go back and maybe change the guidelines of the ideal business.
There you have it. Just sharing the franchise freedom.
Look at that handsome guy.
Yeah, good looking guy. GG, thefranchiseguide.com. you can book a call with Giuseppe. Giuseppe, it was awesome to have you on. Thanks for sharing a ton of information, all the knowledge you've accumulated over the years, helping thousands of professionals. We'll be sure to include the links on the YouTube description, as well as if you're listening on podcasts and in the show notes. Thanks again, Giuseppe.
I appreciate it. I learned a lot as well, so I appreciate the invite. Thank you.